Hey everyone, welcome to Shooting the Shit here on the Are They Good channel, the show where I kind of just talk about things that I don't get to cover in traditional Are They Good videos. And today is an extension of the Are They Good Oklahoma City Thunder video where I'm talking about OKC trades. Now, before we get too far, I want to say I don't think the Thunder need to make a trade. A lot of these trades I do try to tailor to the needs the Thunder currently have, or kind of a Thunder perspective, but generally I don't think these are necessary, to be honest. That being said, we still did them, or I still did them, and we're going to talk about them. So let me know in the comments down below what you think about these trades, or find me over on Twitter at CS_NBA, or on Threads at aretheygoodnba. So to get us started, let's take a look at the first and probably most notable name to come up in these trade talks. So, of course, Lauri Markkanen is the one that gets likened to OKC a lot. I'm not entirely sure why. I mean, large wings are pretty useful in most places, and a lot of the people I've seen talking about Lauri Markkanen, a lot of it OKC, I've seen some Golden State stuff as well. But this is the one, I think, the bigger name, because I haven't seen too many Pascal Siakham takes. But anyway, reach out to the Jazz and say, hey, listen, we know that Sports Illustrated had reported you guys wanted 5 first, Kayson Wallace, Ousmane Dieng, and Davis Bertans for Lauri Markkanen and THT, and we ain't about that. So we're going to send you Davis Bertans and Ousmane Dieng, give you a little upside in terms of a big wing. Still 20. He's the same age as Taylor Hendricks, which is wild because he's been in the league technically like 2 years now. A lot of G League minutes though, so don't get too excited. But then we get Lauri Markkanen and Taylor Hendricks back, and we're going to send you 3 firsts, neither a distant first or 2 seconds. Because, like, if we're being honest, this is the same situation Toronto found themselves in last year when they were like, we want 4 first-round picks for OG Anunoby, and no one said anything. Like, there's a reason OG Anunoby didn't move until, like, last month, right? And this is going to be the same thing here. Like, OKC is not in a rush to go get Lauri Markkanen. Golden State might be, but who knows with Golden State right now, and they don't have the assets to pull that off. So who knows, but I think this is probably one of the better deals realistically. This is one I've never really liked the Lauri Markkanen trade anyway, but I had to talk about it because his name and how many times he's been associated with OKC trades. Now, probably the next most popular name or most notable name that people may have heard, and the only other one I think that I've seen reported like this is Alex Causo from the Bulls. Alex Causo does have some ties back to OKC, playing for the Blue ways back. So, you know, that is there. But we've also seen that the Bulls have relatively zero interest in talking to anyone about anyone other than Zach Lavine. So, yeah, this is kind of we get something, but we have to facilitate. So the Thunder get Andre Drummond, a good backup big, good bully ball. It's definitely a player we don't have a type for right now. And if we get into the playoffs and need someone like this, it would be very useful to have. Expiring contract. I don't know that the Bulls keep him around at 30 anyway. And the Bulls are pretty bad, even with their winning streak. So, and then we get Alex Causo, who is a kind of not the smallest guard out there by any means. Good defender. Can shoot the 3 ball. And OKC loves to switch guards. And if say Giddey hits a dry spell and can't play make or whatever, we have Alex Causo. Or Giddey gets tired or injured, or say we just need another guard out there. He's not going to start. But that's something I think most of the time he's not going to be considered a starter. So we just kind of have to go from there. Now, the Bulls are getting a ton of stuff because they're sending out Zach Lavine and Alex Causo and Andre Drummond. So we're sending them Tre Mann and Ousmane Dieng. Big wing and good playmaker. Collectively, they make like a really solid player. But I mean, Tre Mann in that Trailblazers game, He has the Trailblazers, but he did, he's grown on defense. He's grown in his passing capabilities. He's still the offensive powerhouse he was before. Ousmane Dieng, once again, a lot of upside there. They get Wendell Carter Jr. to kind of make up for the Andre Drummond of it all. And if they decide to eventually part ways with Nikola Vucevic or send him somewhere else in a trade, they can do that. We send them Poku, an expiring deal, so they don't have to worry about the money too much there. Gary Harris is the same thing, but he's a shooter, so he's not replacing Zach Lavine in terms of that, but that's kind of the closest you're getting. And then Jonathan Isaac, partially for money, but also partially for upside. If he's healthy, he can be good. He just usually isn't very healthy, unfortunately. Which leads us over here to the Magic in getting Zach Lavine. Now, I made this a three-way team trade because the Bulls, once again, do not seem interested in talking to anyone until they move Zach Lavine. And there's a lot of teams out there that could probably use Zach Lavine shooting. But I think the Magic are probably the best. Not the best, but they could use him. And I would like to see the Magic do good. So, we're also, of course, going to include picks here. Probably 2 firsts from the Thunder and, say, a first and 2 seconds from the Magic to get the Bulls off of these players. But the shooting is good. Yes, that's a lot of money. And especially if you're kind of thinking about Markel's extension or Markel coming back, we'll see. Or maybe you repackage him in a trade or let him go into free agency and then focus on Jalen Suggs, Anthony Black, Cole Anthony. So, we'll see. But I think this is a trade all around that teams are getting good players. It fits their needs, and, the Bulls can kind of start their soft rebuild, if you will. Now on to kind of the ones that don't get reported, also with the 3-team trade, also with the Magic, because I love the Magic. But also because the Magic have Wendell Carter Jr., who is probably one of the few starting grade centers that would be available for trade without drastically impacting the other team. Largely because the Magic have Gogo Batadze and he has stepped up and is starting over Wendell Carter when Wendell Carter has been healthy. But that brings us to the Wendell Carter of it all, that he has some injury issues this year, so But, that's something we could kind of sit on for next year. He's a young guy. If we want to grow him with the kind of core, we can do that. But we'd be sending out Davis Bertans and Tre Mann. Tre Mann is going to go to the Rockets. Davis Bertans is going to the Magic. We would be getting Wendell Carter Jr. back. The Rockets are sending out Jalen Green and getting Gary Harris from the Magic. And this is all kind of propagated on... There's not a lot of players that the Thunder can send the Magic that would be super useful. Like Tre Mann, I think, can help, but he's not really the shooter. And while you do have Davis Bertans being a good three-point shooter, and he's kind of the spark plug off the bench, he doesn't really fix their scoring problems. Jalen Green, I think, can, as long as he has a good facilitator next to him, and Markelle Fultz, when he's healthy, is good. We've seen flashes of that from Anthony Black as well. And, I'm sure to an extent Jalen Suggs can get there. Now, of course, you're getting a guard rotation. You're not getting a center back, but the Magic are kind of wealthy in centers right now anyway. So, the Rockets are getting collectively what would be Jalen Green and 2 different players. Gary Harris could start. He's a good shooter. He's been serviceable for the Magic. But, he's maybe not as high as a ceiling as Jalen Green could have, but he's more consistent. Tre Mann, kind of the same way. Tre Mann doesn't play a lot, but one of the things you can say about him is when he goes out there, he doesn't look bad. He stays ready. So this is a player, if you need a spark plug off the bench, and you're the Rockets right now kind of fighting your way to stay into the play-in, if Golden State makes a good trade by the deadline or the Jazz get hot, you're out of the play-in. So you're going to have to make some moves, and I think as much as Houston has invested in Jalen Green and wants him to be good, I just don't know that he's good in Houston, unfortunately. So that's kind of the idea. Like I said, some of these trades are going to be a little wild, so let me know in the comments below. What do you think about this one specifically? Because I think this is really, really interesting. Now going to kind of a flashback, if you will, for the Thunder. We'd be sending out Davis Bertans to the Wizards. Shout out the Uncontested. Love that joke. So the Wizards, they're bad. Who cares? Send them Davis Bertans. Maybe they can package it with Jordan Poole and get a good player. That was mean, but we all know Jordan Poole is not pulled off what the Wizards want. And we would be getting back Danny Advia, who has Poison Pill, but Davis Bertans covers that, and Mike Muscala. Mike Muscala, old Thunder guy, so bring him back, backup center, but I think more than anything, he is a locker room guy, right? He's going to be someone that is kind of the dad of the team. He, not only because of age, but, he knows a lot of the people there as far as, like, the staff and whatnot. And he has experience. He's been in the league for a while, so you have kind of that one gap there for this team. You don't really have a lot of people who've been around for a while. Right now, I mean, it's Kenrich Williams, and Kenrich Williams is 29, right? So, I mean, he's not that much younger than Mike Muscala, but still. And, yeah, I mean, bring him in. He plays your more traditional center, and I think you can even get him to kind of mentor Jay Will in that in case we ever need Jay Will to do it. Jay Will plays like really good Thunder basketball right now, but he doesn't play like a backup big, which is why we don't see him in backup big minutes. We see Kenrich do it. And I think moving forward, if we're going to keep Jay Will on the team, like this is a skill set he would need to learn just for versatility. Now, I'm not saying by any means we get rid of Jay Will, because like I really like Jay Will, and I think he's a big like soul part of the team, much like Kenrich Williams, and I think Mike Muscala just adds to that. And even if we don't keep him back next year, I think that's a lot of experience we get in the locker room through a playoff series that not a lot of people on this roster have been through playoff series. So I think it would be important, and it would be useful. And then we get Danny Advia, who, big guard or big wing. We need to switch him out for Giddey at some point. We can. If one of like J-Dub gets hurt, or some of the guys off the bench like Wiggins or Isaiah Joe get hurt, we can put him in and he would be pretty serviceable. So this would, I think, are the Wizards getting anything back player-wise? Not really. Like Bertans isn't bad, but he's not going to start for them. But we'd also send them some picks, and in their kind of rebuild process and having ties from the front offices, I think you could probably swing that. Another 3-team trade with the Magic, because why not? In pretty much the same vein, oddly enough, just slightly changed. So the Thunder would be getting Onyeka Okongwu from the Hawks. We'd be sending out Davis Bertans over to the Hawks. The Magic would be sending Jonathan Isaac to the Hawks and be getting DeJounte Murray in return. If the Hawks are looking to sell, this is probably like the weirdest thing they could do. I don't think it's a bad deal, but a lot of people are looking at Murray. So I don't know that the Magic can swing this, but if we come in and say we throw a first, the Magic throw a first, facilitate the entire deal, bring everyone to the table. Are we necessary in this trade? Not horribly necessarily, but it is something that I think would benefit all 3 teams, largely because, both of those, the Isaac and the Bertans contract, are big enough. If you combine them with like a Clint Capella or a DeAndre Hunter, you can go get a star after the playoffs in the offseason that is just not happy, right? It's kind of a Knicks approach, if you will. And, if you want to change this to not Okongwu, you could do that, obviously. But then, what are we doing for the Hawks? Like, it's one of those things. I think this is the base minimum or something like this. And we get a backup big. He's a little expensive, but, it is what it is. And then the Magic get DeJounte Murray. And, honestly, like, I think Okongwu is a better deal than Capella, right? 14 versus 20 million, Capella expires better or sooner, but I don't really think it's a thing that I'm too invested in if we're looking at a backup. Like, just save the money, save the cap space, and kind of go from there. So, if that doesn't work, we take a trip up to New York, talk to the Knicks, and say, hey, look, you've got Precious Achiuwa, we could use a backup big. Do you want to mess with a 7-footer that expires? Like, worst case, they don't play Poku, they repackage him for a trade, right? The reporting was after the OG Anunoby trade that the Knicks are looking to make a small deal before the deadline to kind of repurpose and repackage to get a bigger deal in the offseason for a disgruntled star. Do this and throw a couple seconds at them that maybe they can use in future deals. Do we need Precious Achiuwa? Not really. But once again, backup big is not someone, it's a backup big. They're not going to start, and they may be even playing spot minutes, which is effectively what Precious Achiuwa is already doing. But what we do get is lineup versatility. So if we get into a game and we need a big, say Chet's not on the floor and we need someone taller or just more physical, which is kind of hard to do, then Kenrich Williams, we can do that with someone like Precious Achiuwa or Wendell Carter Jr. And last and probably dumbest of all, the sentimental trade. If the front office, which is this, there's no way this would ever happen, but if like Russ, the front office, and the Clippers all see is like, hey, the Thunder are probably going to the finals. Say the Clippers come down with some health issues over the next few weeks, which I hope they don't because they've been playing really well. Say, hey, listen, we give you Trey Mann. This is not going to be a thing that the player is going to make a big deal for you. We give you a first, maybe a second instead, depending on what they want for Russ. And we get Russ back, and Russ can end his career, retire in OKC, and maybe we make a finals run. Once again, you get experience. I don't think that he's going to play a ton, to be honest. He just doesn't really fit in the system they have now, but yeah, I mean, this is the same thing as like, is D Rose ever going to go back to Chicago to retire? Unless like in the off season, we convince Russ, say, hey, just like come back for a year, end it in OKC, and kind of go from there. I think that would be neat as an OKC fan, but like realistically, this makes 0 sense. And like, as far as any like past OKC player, I think this is the one you would even attempt this for, right? You're not doing it for KD. You're not going to do it for James Harden. You would do it for Westbrook, right? So that's kind of is what it is. I thought this was just a fun one to throw in. But like I said, let me know in the comments down below. Do any of these trades make sense? Are all of these dumb? OKC, personally, I don't think needs to make a trade. But do any of these even approach serviceable? Anyway, thanks for staying with me for about 20 minutes here, guys. Really appreciate it. I'll see you in the next one.